We're good in Facebook. We're good, sir.
All right, sounds good. Hey, how's everybody doing? Uh, we are here for our weekly training. Today, we're going to be talking about grants for youth programs. As we think about the different youth programs, this week we have talked about the different types of grants for youth programs, different ways to grow your youth program. On yesterday, we went over 10 ideas on how you could utilize your youth program, different models. Today, we're going to go over the budget for your youth program and then some potential funding sources where you can get the funding that you need for your youth program. All right. So if you're ready, we're ready to dig in to the world of grants for youth programs. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Morning, Coach. What's happening?
Doing good, doing good. Good to see you. All right. So let's look at your budget for a youth program. So when you're doing your budget, what you want to do is make sure that you have included everything you can think of. And your budgets are normally done for a year. They're typically done in Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets. I like Excel because I'm comfortable with the formulas, and then I'll just upload it to Google Sheets if needed. There are people that do their budget in Word documents and tables. I don't really trust the table because you can't trust the math. Sometimes people make mental mistakes with their math. But if you do it using Excel, it's going to do the math for you. All right. And so let's go straight into the budgeting. How do you budget for your youth program? All right. So your budget has three main categories. The first big category is revenue. So you go to your box A1 and you type revenue, and then you come down maybe about 10 10 rows, and in row like J or K, you put program expenses. Now you want to put this in bold. You want revenue, and then you come down 10 spaces, and then you put program expenses. All right. You want all this to be in column one. Then you go down about 20 rows, and um, you put indirect expenses or administrative expenses. Now, there are some people that put personnel in a category of its own. So your main categories in row, I mean not row, in column A is revenue, personnel, program expenses, and administrative expenses or indirect. When you do it this way, you're going to end up with subtotals for each section. The reason that this is important is because there are some grants that will not cover indirect. Some grants will not cover personnel. Some grants only cover personnel, only cover program supplies. And in those instances, you want to be able to have subtotals for each one of those. All right. So if we're setting up your budget, then on your in column one, column A, row one, you want revenue, and then you go down about 10 levels and you put personnel, you go down 5 levels and you put program expenses, go down 20 rows, and then you put administrative or indirect expenses. All right. So that's all in the first column. Then you go over to the second column. In the second column, um, you'll skip the first row because now you're in the section of revenue. In the section of revenue, you want grants. These are your subcategories: grants, donations, sponsorships, in kind, All right. And then you can put mission related revenue, grants, sponsorships, grants, donations, sponsorships, in kind, mission related revenue. Okay. So what we're doing right now is setting up your budget for your youth program. And for those of you that don't know or have just joined, I'm Jay Hackett. I'm a grant expert. I've been doing this for about 20 years, but that's not important. The most important thing is that I've helped my clients earn and gain about $107 million in grants. This for big grants, small grants, local grants, national grants, international grants, big organizations, small organizations. The smallest grant I've ever gotten was $250. The largest grant I've ever gotten was $20 million. And all of them follow similar blueprints and they follow the same strategy. And so that's what I'm sharing with you today. So as you look at your youth programs, you might be trying to fund something small. You might be trying to fund something big. If you know somebody that needs this information, tag them right now. If you are here and you have questions, go ahead and write them down because we're going to have a Q&A period. There are no stupid questions. I know that lots of people don't know anything about grants, and I'm here to answer the questions for you. All right. And I'm really, really good at it. I'm actually the best at it. So let's get started. Let's go back into what we were talking about regarding your budget. So your budget has these four sections. One is revenue, one is personnel, one is program expenses, the other is indirect or administrative expenses. All right. In your revenue section, you're going to have grants, donations, in kind, sponsorships, and mission related revenue. Now, you can also have something, a category called miscellaneous. That's perfectly fine. But this is what folks are accustomed to seeing in the nonprofit grant world. They're used to seeing budgets that have these categories. When you look at grants that are available for both for-profit and for nonprofit companies, grants for for-profit companies are smaller. The applications are normally smaller, simpler, easier to do, but they're also super duper competitive. Grants for nonprofits oftentimes are not as competitive. They're regional specific, they're mission specific, and they can be very long. There's one grant that I got for $1.3 million. The application, well, the questions, the grant announcement was 85 pages long. So you have to read all that just to know what it's about. And so it can run the gamut. There's one grant. Some of you are familiar with the Galaxy Grant. The Galaxy Grant is just like you just have 6 lines: your first name, last name, address, email, et cetera, et cetera. They don't even ask what you want to use the money for. And that grant is $2,900. So it really runs the gamut as far as what you have to do to answer these grant questions. But what we're going over today are grants for youth programs, and we're going over the budget for youth program. So in your revenue section, you have grants, sponsorships, donations, in kind, mission related revenue, and you have a miscellaneous. In your personnel, you want to actually put the name of your staff members. So your executive director, your program director, your team leader. All right. And not only that, you want to have the names of those staff people, um, and you want to have payroll expenses. Okay, your payroll expenses is the money that you're paying the payroll company to process the checks. I remember I was in a I was in what was I in? I was in a staff meeting when I first become executive director over this organization, and I was in the staff meeting, and I was like, "Well, all these salaries are covered. Why do we keep running in the red if the salaries are covered?" And my accountant said, you didn't put in your budget for payroll expenses, and so even though the salary is covered, the cost to pay those people was not covered. And so payroll expenses is all the money that you pay to the payroll company for printing the check, sending the check, direct deposits, all that stuff. That's payroll expenses. Then inside the personnel section, you have a fringe. Your fringe is made up of a few different things. FICA, that's federal income tax; FUTA, federal unemployment tax; SUTA, state unemployment tax; FICA, FUTA, SUTA. That's else for you know that FICA, FUTA, SUTA. But it also includes vacation days. Vacation days have a dollar amount. I learned this the hard way because I was at an organization. I had stepped in after the former executive had left, and the board was scratching his head, and the agency was in trouble. It was in trouble because the policy for vacation days did not include a statement that if you don't use it, you lose it. So here we have about 9 different team members that had been accumulating vacation time for years. They had been accumulating vacation time for years, and each one of those days of vacation had a dollar amount. So the company owed them money because of their vacation days. You get it? And so here we have the folks that were planning to leave and went in their vacation cashed out, and the agency just did not have the money. It didn't have the money because it had never budgeted and it never aligned the budget with the vacation time. All right. So the agency ended up, it did go into debt. When I stepped in, I showed them how to work it out and how to take care of it, and they did. But it was a problem that they should not have had to have. Um, so they had to go and redo the policy. They adopted a policy of use it or lose it. They actually named in the policy that sick days have no dollar value. If you don't use them, then they expire. And vacation days, they accrued at a certain number of hours per pay period, and you had 1 year to use those vacation days. If you didn't use them, then they expired at the end of the year. And that way the agency didn't run into the hole. But payroll, these hidden charges of payroll is something that lots of people don't budget for. And because they don't budget for it, they don't really know how it impacts them. All right. And it could come around and bite you in the butt. At the end of the year, you think that you've paid everything. But if you don't have in the bank the amount to cash out vacation, you're running in the red and don't know it. All right. So let's let's go FICA, FUTA, SUTA, and then you have Fringe. Fringe includes vacation days. It also includes your health care. All right. So when a company gets a health care plan, the company is purchasing the plan and then they're passing the charges on to the staff. So there are some companies that'll pay 100%. That's fine. It's a great benefit. There are some companies that'll pay 50%. That's fine. But the bill, the insurance bill, goes to the company and the company pulls it out in each paycheck. So if you get $100,000 grant and 50,000 of that is for your staff, about $30,000, about $15,000. I'm sorry, 30% of 50 is 15. About $15,000 should be set aside for fringe for this whole category of payroll expenses. All right, payroll expenses and fringe. The formula that I use is 30.65%. So that means if you have staff and your staff costs $50,000, you multiply 50 times 30.65 percent. And what is that? Do that math real quick. 50,000 times 30.65%. You're going to have to press equals twice. And then it'll give you something close to somewhere between 15 and 17,000. That is your payroll. So that's the shortcut. All right. And out of that, you pull all of your expenses, your vacation, your unemployment tax, and all that stuff. All right. So next section is your program expenses. Now, this is where you put in everything you can think of that you're going to need for the year, everything you can think of, but you want to put it in there in a very specific way so that it makes sense to the funders and it makes sense to you as you're looking for different grants. Because when you're looking for grants, you're not really looking for whole program funding. You're looking for funding for each line item, and different grants are going to allow you to ask money inside of what they call allowable costs. So they're going to have allowable costs, and you want to look at their allowable costs and compare it to your budget and see what from your budget can you include in this grant. All right. So let's go on. So in the program expenses, you want supplies, equipment. Okay. All of your rentals, space, computers, technology, laptop, all of that stuff. All right. Everything you can think of. If you were to walk into your program, if a stranger were to walk into your program, you had to list out everything that costs money. This is what is called program expenses. I'm talking about if you're playing, if you have an after school program and y'all play kickball, you need the money for the kickballs, you need money for the bases, you need money to clean up the bases, you need money for the brush to wipe the bases, you need money for the to prepare the yard. If you're the person that has to hire a lawnmower to or a yard person to come and clear the lawn, you need to include that. Letters, envelopes, anything that the program uses. Anything that the program uses, you put it in the supply category. I mean, you put it in the program supplies category. All right. When you're dealing with federal grants, their definitions are largely adopted by other programs, by other funding sources. So in the federal grant world, something that costs from zero up to $4,999.99. That is considered a supply. Anything that's $5,000 and more, that's considered equipment. All right. So when you're thinking about supply versus equipment, there are some grants that say we'll pay for supplies, we won't pay for equipment. And you need to know that anything that is less, that is up to $4,999.99, that is a supply. Anything that's $5,000 or over, that is considered equipment. And so there are some strategies that people use because you want to have as much supply as you want. You don't want equipment. Sometimes equipment requires different strategies. Like if you're getting equipment, there are times that the funding source, especially if it's a federal or a state grant, they're going to require you to get three estimates, and then the board decides or somebody decides on the best estimate. But if it's a supply, you don't need that protocol. All right. So you want as many supplies as possible. Now, if you need equipment, you don't want to avoid it. It just is what it is. All right. So supplies and all of your equipment. Now, then the next section is your administrative or your indirect. This is where you put your rent or lease, your mortgage payment, your legal, your accounting, all of that stuff. You want to estimate how much it costs. How much does it cost for you to get your organization's taxes done each year, your 990? Right now, you might be doing the postcard because you have less than $50,000. But if you are going to get an accountant to do it, and as you grow, that accountant might charge anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 to do your nonprofit tax return. It's called a 990. So you want to put that in there. How much are you going to pay the bookkeeper? The bookkeeper might cost $200 to $500 a month. And then you have a line item for legal. What is it going to cost for you to have a lawyer on retainer or a lawyer? How do you estimate that? And then your electric bill, your water bill, your gas bill, your yard bill, your technology, any of the things that you need in order to run the program, they're not being utilized with the program participants. The staff are not activating them on program activities, but they are needed for the program. That is all called administrative or overhead or indirect. And there are some grants that will not cover indirect, but there are other grants that will cover indirect. All right. So you want to add up all of that, and this creates your budget. Each section has each section has a subtotal. All right. And that subtotal, it should be highlighted. All right. So your revenue has a subtotal. It's a total for that, but it's a subtotal for the budget as a whole. Okay. Okay. Your revenue has a total, personnel has a total, program supplies has a total, and then your admin has a total. Then you take all of those totals and you add it up, and that becomes your grand total. All right. Now, let's go over some grants that are available for youth programs. I encourage you take a look at them and see if they apply to you. And if they do, then go after it. If they don't, then that's fine. You can always find grants for youth program through your community foundation. You can find it through your city. You find it through your county. You find it through your hospital, through your schools foundation, your hospitals foundation. You can find it through regional foundations, private foundations. Every retailer has grants available, and I really like the Looking Out Foundation. They have a $5,000 grant. It's just a two-page proposal for $5,000. Their cycle is twice per year, in July and in December, and so their deadline is in July. They'll send you a they'll send you their decision if they award you. They'll send you a check and a congratulations letter in December, and vice versa. All right. Also, there is the Karma for Kara micro grant program. This is this is 250 to $1,000, um, and it's for programs that are led by young leaders. So if you have a youth program, a youth ambassador, and they are in leadership, they will give between 250 and $1,000 for youth-led community projects. Then you have the Elka National Foundation. This is their community investment program. They have a grant uh, about 3,500, and they fund children's programs for youth. The other program that you have are federal grants, and they're large scale funding. The Department of Education, they give out $1.3 billion for after school and summer programs. All right. Then you have the Family and Youth Services Bureau, that's FYSB. These grants are set aside for a variety of programs, including runaway and homeless youth programs, adolescent pregnancy programs, prevention, sexual risk avoidance, and education. You can look at their competitive grant process at FYSB, and these grants are wonderful. Sometimes you'll see that programs are building whole community centers, and they have like a community marching band, and all of it's funded with grants. It's because of these large endowments like FYSB. Then you also have the Children's Funding Project. This is a federal funding stream. You can actually look at their database. They have over 304 funding streams across 20 agencies that have grants for youth programs. Then you have foundations and thematic support. So when you have these types of foundations, that when that's when they're funding specific types of youth programs. This one is called the Heckscher Foundation for Children. They're in New York City, and they have grants available. Then you also have the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation. They offer all level of scholarships and grants for programs for youth. Then you have the Fender Music Foundation. They award musical instruments and equipment, and sometimes cash to schools and nonprofits offering music education programs. So if you have a music education program in your school, then the PTA can apply for this grant. If you are doing like a community-based music program, then you can apply to Fender Music Foundation. Not only that, if you have like Sean is here, he has a financial literacy program. Let's say you are doing your financial literacy, but in order to keep the youth involved, you have a musical component to it. You would apply to Fender Foundation in order to cover the line item of music equipment. All right, then you have the Soccer Foundation. If you are doing a soccer program, they'll pay for the equipment, they'll pay for the travel. They have grants to build and refurbish playing fields and to help underserved communities. Then you have the Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation, or MEAF. This provides multi-year grants and support to youth with disabilities, including internships, including leadership programs and advocacy training. So if you want your youth to learn to be civic leaders, you want to do a junior leader program, junior city council program, Mitsubishi is for you. And then there are grants that will help you with planning. All right. You can use program grants. You can use planning grants to plan your youth program. Let's say your neighborhood has a particular problem, youth violence, youth dropout, teen pregnancy, whatever it is, and you want to get the youth together and see what we can do to solve the problem. You don't have to do that for free. You can actually write for a planning grant a planning grant in order to do what needs to be done with the young people. So we're about out of time. I may have gone over. We're right at time. I'll take just a few questions before we go. This is how you do your budget for your youth program. These are some grants that are available for your youth program. And we want to make sure that you have what you need so that if you're serving young people, you have all the money you need in order to run your program. All right. Anybody have any questions before I go?
I got a question, Coach. Earlier you were talking about insurance, something I hadn't thought about previously.
Mhm.
Is it better to do the insurance through the nonprofit side or the for-profit side?
The nonprofit needs to have its own insurance. And you can start with a very small policy. I normally, when I start nonprofits, I'll recommend Next Insurance. It's super affordable. It's a very easy process, and you can normally get started with $25.
Okay. All right. And then the second question I had was, like you brought up, like I'm financial literacy, but if I want to do something with music, how hard is it, and how much do the grant people look at your proposal when you're commingling, or not commingling, but combining different programs?
As long as it is in the nonprofit, the idea of mixing or commingling is only between two entities, between two structures. But your one nonprofit can do a lot of different programs. Like you can, if you wanted to, you can do a money makeover program, you can do an after school program, and you can do a literacy program, and you can do a swimming program, and you can do a marching band if you wanted to. And if the grant is program specific, then they expect you to only use that money for the program you wrote for. Does that make sense?
It does.
If they give you a general operating grant, then that money goes to the organization for you to use however you want. Make sense?
Yes.
Now, when you have money that comes for one program, they expect you to account for it inside that one program. And what your bookkeeper will often do is tag that transaction to that specific program.
Okay.
Okay. And at the end of the year, when you have to produce a report, what they technically will do is pull the report for everything that was tagged in that program. For example, I got in Black Wall Street, we had a Black Wall Street youth program, Black Wall Street Junior, and we had an adult program. And the Black Wall Street Junior program was funded by the city. The Black Wall Street adult program was funded by the county. So whenever we had to report on the activities, our bookkeeper would just pull everything that was tagged Black Wall Street Junior. And that way we had expenses and revenue that was all in that category. So that's how we did that. And when they look at your budget, if the grant is program specific, like Fender Music, they're only expecting you to give them your music expenses.
Okay.
And when you report, you're only reporting on your music expenses.
All right. Makes sense.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. No problem. All right. Any other questions? Well, again, I'm Jay Hackett. I'm your grant expert here to help you get the grants for your community, for your program, for your church, for your idea, for your mission. I just want everybody to know that if you have good intentions and you're willing to do something to help somebody else, you're not out there by yourself. You don't have to do it out of your own pocket. You don't have to go broke trying to help people. There's at any given time $500 billion of grant money that's moving around, and I'm just here to help you get some of it. All right. If you need any help with anything, definitely reach out. I look forward to helping you all in the future. All right. All right. Bye now.